Yeah, hi guys. So far we have covered data flow transformations and control flow tasks and some of the containers, right? The containers are like sequence container and for loop container. Yesterday we have covered for loop container, right? Like when you wanted to run certain number of tasks, especially on a given loop, on a given number, until the condition becomes false, we will go with the for loop container. The other one is for each loop container, which is available in control flow itself, where we will be using, can you see here, for each loop container. Only 3 containers available, but these 3 containers are used for different purposes. These two we have already covered. Last one for each loop container is mainly used to looping for looping purpose only, but to loop certain amount of files basically, which where the count we don't know. For example, there is a requirement, guys. The same requirement we are going to execute it now, which is very important. For example, client consider this is your real-time requirement. Okay. For example, client has placed daily basis. He's going to place one file for example, like customer file, and tomorrow he will share another file. So and today only same customer file for different regions, but format is same only. Consider the scenario. He's going to place his file in your local folder or maybe shared folder. From there, you will put it in your local folder, where he will share all set of files in CSV format, and he wanted you to load the data into destination called OLTP, which is called SQL Server. So remember the scenario, which is very important in terms of interview also, and real time also very important. They will keep on ask this question: how do you load the files from a given folder? That too, you don't know the number of files on a daily basis, right? You never know whether you will have 10 files or you will have tomorrow like 5 files. It depends on customer, right? So he will place 5 files or 2 files, but if there is no files on a given folder, your package should not run. There is another scenario. So that's advanced scenario. First, understand the main scenario where you wanted to load the number of files, where you don't know the actual count. The baseline of this definition is when you don't know the actual count of files to be loaded, that time dynamically we will go with the for each loop container. Remember, very important. Dynamically, you're going to load the files from a given folder, which is called for each loop container. Definition is clear? But to explain more about the for each loop container, let me drag and show you some of the options, and then we'll get into the requirement which I just said. Okay. Now, the moment you drag a for each loop container, guys, double click on it. There are few things to remember. This is general, where you will give some name or description, which is fine. Go to the collection. This is a place you're going to configure, but I would like to highlight few things. Do remember, very important. Can you see the enumerator? Guys, enumerator. This enumerator in for each loop container have many types of enumerator. There are many other types, but I'm going to discuss only for each file enumerator. For example, if you click on this, if you drag down, you will find lot of enumerators here. As I said, for each item, ADO.NET and ADO.NET, ADO and ADO.NET for each from variable enumerator. So out of all these things in real time, that too in interview purpose, they will go with the for each file enumerator. Can you see here? So in the collection, if you click on connection on the left side, you will see the options in the drop down, which is where you will find for each file enumerator. And you have to configure the folder name here. And this is a standard format, like star dot star means it will pick all the files irrespective of the extension. It will pick all the files. But here also you can make a configuration. I'll tell you how it is. And variable mappings also you need to configure it. I'll tell you. Just to show you the types of enumerators here, you have to click on enumerator, drop down, and go here for each file enumerator. This is the configuration of for each file, for each loop container basically. Within that, we have a for each file enumerator. Don't get confused. This is very important, guys. Okay. Now the requirement, we'll start on the requirement part. Okay. I'll keep this for each loop container aside for a second. Just delete this. Now, let me create a new package. The package name I'm gonna give as for each loop container. Okay. Now, what is the requirement? Anybody wants to repeat the requirement because it is very, very important. Today is class 5, right? Class 4, class 5. For each loop container. Anybody wants to repeat the requirement?
Client places files on a daily basis. Okay.
Go ahead, anybody's like.
Dynamically loading the files in given folder.
Correct. What can be the requirement? Will the files be constant on a daily basis?
Yeah.
Can customer will tell you exactly today I'm going to place 5 files, 10 files, or something like that?
No.
We never know the count, right? And
Customer can give the file anytime.
anytime, as well as any count also.
Yeah, any kind. Yeah.
There is a negative scenario also where consider a weekend, guys. Probably weekend there is no sales on US, something like that. I'm just giving a random example. There is no sales on a particular region, but we generally don't get files on weekend. Okay, but still your package will look for files if there is any count or there. If there is a file, then you need to pick it immediately. So that can be your requirement. Correct? No? Now to achieve this, can you expand the requirement in a bit, saying what needs to be done step by step? You tell me, I will follow, except for each loop container. Remaining and all, you know it better. Like I said, files are placed in a folder. You're going to pick it. Now, this is your source. Correct? Now, again, he's asking you another requirement to load the file into where OLEDB destination. He will not tell you the clearly OLEDB destination because he is not a technical guy. He just wanted to load the data into SQL Server. Then what is your process? Can you tell me step by step from the beginning? This is your interview question, guys. They will ask you scenario, and in SSIS, how questions will be no one will ask you to write the questions or a queries like SQL Server. They will ask you to tell the steps one by one. Can you tell me the process? Can you tell me your steps? How do you follow? Like this only they will ask you. Now, treat this as your interview question. Anybody start with one point and I'll ask some question for other, I'll give chance for another person. First, how do I start to load the data from a folder into a OLEDB destination? Right now, I created a separate package. Correct now? Now I'm into the package. Now I'm into the control flow. Then what?
Data flow.
Data flow. Why I should take a data flow? What is the requirement I'm talking about? Am I talking about a particular task, or am I talking
it's not
about flowing the data?
Flowing the data.
Flowing the data from where to where?
From
yeah.
Destination is OLEDB.
Okay. What is
And
the
the
source
source?
basically?
From folder to the SQL
Folder.
server.
Okay.
Yes, within the folder, what I'm having it? I'm having a one file, no? From file to a SQL Server. Now, the flow is clearly given from file to destination called SQL Server. That is the reason I have taken a data flow task. Now, what next? Can I rename this properly for everybody to understand?
Yeah.
Load the data from where to where? From file to
SQL Server.
Now, can you double click and configure it?
Yeah.
Now, what next?
Connection manager, we have to know.
Correct. What type of a connection manager?
OLEDB.
Before going to the OLEDB, what is my first thing to configure? What is my source basically?
We need to configure the folder.
Right. For that, what connection should I take?
New connection.
New connection.
New connection is fine. Can you see the type of file connections here?
Flat file.
Very good. Flat file.
Flat file.
Because source is what, guys? Flat file only, no? Like I'm talking about some file, no? That is a reason. Now, what is the next one?
Browser.
Okay. Now there is no files configured here. Na? Can we create some random files like a dummy files?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Now I'm into here. Let me create some sample. Let me create some CSV. Okay. ID. name, okay, a region, let it be like this. Employee ID is 1, let's say John, and region is USA, okay. Within this, David, something like USA, okay. Consider this is your file for C test 1, okay. Now let me save this as not an Excel workbook. I'm going to store it as CSV format.
Yes.
Test 1. Now I'm going to create one more file. Now what I'll do is I'll just copy it so that I will rename it to test2 and double click on it and enter your. This is not your task in real time, just for us, for our training purpose. What I'm doing here is I'm going to create some random data. Okay, 2 files has been created. Now I'm going to create one more file also. Now, 6. 3 files setup is done, right? 3 file setup is done. Now this is an important point. Kindly observe, guys. Now what I have to do is just go to test. Since it is a, why are you not seeing all the files? Because you have to configure the file types also here. Just click on all files. Now let me pick first file. Let me pick first file. Meaning you don't know the scenario of how to pick the remaining files also. Consider only one file and tell me the process. Like click on select test 1. Click on OK. Now go to the columns, check the columns. And now what else? Connection manager is all done. What else? To properly give this name, can I make it as a source? Huh. What else? What should I drag? What is the next step, guys?
That's a destination, OLEDB.
Okay. Let me create a OLEDB connection also. Since it is already there, let me create adventure workbooks. Correct. This is also done. This is my destination. Now, what else?
Since we don't know how many files are there, we need to pass one parameter.
Correct. That is the next step. I'm just asking some basic step. First class I discussed, no, I'm just asking the same thing. I'm not asking new thing. Don't worry. Others, if you are thinking that this lady has not even explained and she's asking some questions. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying I wanted you to repeat the first class which I discussed, guys. That's it.
Source.
Sorry?
We should drag the source.
Very good. I'm just asking the same thing which I explained in the very beginning day, so that to this extension, I will tell you the next step for each loop container. Should I go ahead and do it right away without asking? Let me know, I'll do it. Okay, what is the next step? Flat file source.
For each.
Okay. Configurations are done properly. Now what else? Let me click on OK.
We should double click on.
Yeah.
Okay. This is like click on OK. Now flat file source connection is done, right? Now what else? What is the destination customer has asked to load the data?
OLEDB.
Very good. OLEDB. Now
Double
click on it. Now what is the next step? Since the table is not there, can I create a new table? I'm going to load the new table. Here, I will mention it as a customer data. Correct now? Now I'm going to click on OK. Go to the what is the next step is very important in SSIS. Column mappings are very, very important. Now click on mappings. Make sure your mappings are there properly. Now click on OK. Click on OK.
Mhm.
Okay. So now source connection is done and destination connection is also done. Correct now? Now
Mhm.
till here you're all comfortable to load the data from source to destination only for the single file. Correct now? When I run this package, what is your expectation? The test one will pick up and it will load the data into SQL Server. Now, what customer is asking not to stop with the test one, he wanted to go further and pick other files also. Correct now? To do this, what I will do, I will drag for each loop container, guys. Drag it, and whatever configuration you have done already, just keep inside the for each loop container. Now here the configuration starts. This is very important. If you don't follow this clearly, then you will end up with the problems, like where to go, which configurations to follow. It will be little lengthy, guys. Kindly observe. Step by step, I'll tell you very neatly. Clear now? Now, first step, I dragged for each loop container, and whatever the configuration, I kept it aside for DFT. Okay, one more thing. DFT is nothing but a data flow task, guys. Shortcuts. In real time, people may ask you, kindly share the DFT task with me, like data flow task, shortcuts. Clear, no? CF is nothing but a control flow. Data task, data flow task, DFT, something like that. Now, I kept a DFT inside my for each loop container. Now the configuration starts. First configuration is, you have to create some variables. Yesterday, I have discussed about variables, right? Now, for this requirement, I am going to keep 3 variables. It doesn't need to be necessarily 3 variables. Based on my requirement, I may change this variable list to 2 or maybe 4 or something like that. The first variable name I'm going to give is file name. Since it is a file name, I'm going to change the data type to integer to string. And the second the second variable name is folder name. This is also string, keep it. And the third one is full path, full folder path or full file path, something like this. This is also important. Now this also I'm going to give as a string. If you want, please maintain running notes. Don't stop. Like if you are facing difficulty, write down in your own understanding way only. Like I have to create a variables with so on, so something like that. Okay. Now file name, I'm going to pass the value right as test1 only. Test1.csv. Folder name, I have to copy the folder name here. Copy it, put it here, folder name. Clear? Now, full path, this I can put it like this only, for example, like this, for example, test1.csv. This also I can give manually, but I wanted to explain by writing some expressions. That also I'll tell you. Now, click on that last 3 dots, expand the variables which I told you yesterday again. I repeat. Now, in order to build one expression, what you need to do is, what is a user is mentioned here. Yesterday, I explained 2 types of variables. What is that?
System defined and user defined.
User defined variables.
Just now, I have created user defined, like I have created these 2 variables, file name and folder name and full path. That is what it's showing here. Now, I wanted to build full file path based on my other 2 variables. That I will show you how it is. For example, drag the folder name, evaluate the expression. Now you get it, right? Now give a plus symbol to concatenate and give the file name also here. Just run it. I repeat, I just dragged folder name. Along with that, I have used a concatenate plus to append my file name. I have used a file name also. Now, can I get my full file path here? Now evaluate expression. If you don't end up with any errors, then you're good to go. Right? Now click on OK. Now look at this. Instead of me giving a value manually, it will automatically pick the names from where? From the variables.
Variables.
By doing this, there is advantage here. I'll explain you. Kindly observe. Very, very important. I keep on repeating this important. It's very important. Clear? Now, by doing this way, by writing some expressions, what is the advantage, Suma? Like I can write name here also, right? For example, the way I have written name, I can also put here, right? The reason behind it is, let's say, in future, after you develop this package, next time customer is changing the file names. It is not a consistent, he's changing the file names to something format like test file 111, something like this. Or don't think about a file name, it may create a problems also. Now consider a folder also, guys. For example, future customer is changing the folder location from test folder to region folder, something like that. Now consider this scenario. Instead of you changing the folder name into one place, for example, keep it like this, instead of test to region, automatically consider the next line also. Now go here, evaluate expression, click on OK, look at this. Did I change region manually here or automatically it picked up from the folder name?
It's automatically picked up.
Automatically.
Exactly. So let's say in your real time, it may have lengthy folder names, no? So there can be a manual errors. So to avoid that, always better to keep the expressions like this. So it is easy for you to get the latest updates if customer is changing their folder name or something like that, guys. So for that, I instead of writing, sorry, one second. Okay. By mistakenly I have deleted it, ignore that. Now what I'll do here is folder name. So what is my folder name? /test. And here also, just make sure you're having the test folder only. Click on OK. Now you're good to go. Remember, all these three configurations are done in the variable section. That is your first step. Kindly note down first step to configure a variables. Now moving on to the for each loop container. Double click on it. Go to the collection. And what is the enumerator type you need to select? Always file enumerator. I repeat, go to the enumerator, drop down, search for file enumerator, expressions. Now, since it is a folder, you need to configure some configurations here. Click on property, directory. There is a directory, nothing but a folder, expressions. What is your folder? Just drag the folder name, evaluate expression, click on OK. Right? Looks like it is not, it is taken a folder name property. Click on OK. Now the next set is go to the variable mappings and see what is your final full path you have to configure it here. That is your variable, right? So go to the collection first step in the for each loop container, go to expressions, click on 3 dots, and in this property selection, select the directory and give the folder name here, click on OK. And now what else? Here in this enumerator configuration, you don't need to click anything because it is being configured from the expressions here. Okay. Now the next step is, I'll come back to this later. Variable mappings, as I said, you have to configure the full file path. Right? Now your for each loop container configuration is done properly. This is your second step. I repeat, first step is to create the variables. Second step is to configure the for each loop container. And let me move on to the third step where you have already created a source connection there, right? What you need to do is right click, right? Again, do remember, click on source connection, right click. There is a properties, guys. Click on properties. Can you see the expressions over here? There is a plus symbol. Expand it. Here, again, click on 3 dots. You have to configure one thing called connection string. Connection string. Now again, go to the expression, expand it, configure the full file path here also, evaluate expression, click on OK, you're done. Let me repeat it. The third step is click on the source connection, go to the properties, expression, expand the expression. Since I have already configured here, it is clearly showing here. For you, it will be not visible. You have to click on expressions, click on 3 dots, select the connection string as a type, and then full file path. That is your final file path. Any doubts here? Any doubts? Let me repeat the steps also. First step, in the very beginning, you have configured your source connection, the destination connection, the way you have done it for the loading files, single files, na? Same procedure. And then once you're done with the file configuration, everything in the data flow task, drag the for each loop container and put the DFT inside the for each loop container. Right click, right? Create a variables and configure your folder name, file name, and everything. And the second step is configure your for each loop container. Go to the collections and look at this. Did I give the C underscore test? If you observe it very clearly, earlier it was C only. Where did it receive the C underscore test? Anybody?
From the expression.
Very good. From the
Expressions, yes.
expressions, because I have given clearly to take the folder name from here. That is why the moment I click on OK and again open it, I can see it in the collection section folder C underscore test. This is your second step configuration. Now the third step is go to the source, properties,
Properties.
expressions, give your
Expression.
connection string as full file path. Now click on OK. You're all done with the configurations. Just check your table name once again to check the once after the execution. Let me check the data whether it is loaded properly or not. Now, so what I'll do here is just check the customer data. It is not in SQL Server, right? It is in Adventure Workbooks. Okay, look at this. The table has been created, but the data is not been created. Why? Because you have not executed the package yet. Now let me execute the package. How do I do that? Go to the Solution Explorer, select your package, right click, execute it. Execute package. See, package executed successfully. Now, what is your expectation? Anybody? How can I see the data? How many records I can get it? And what is your expectation? Anybody?
Total 3 files
The
and
three
it
presets.
contains two
Right.
rows.
Exactly. Let's see how many records are there. In the second file, it is 2. I think first file I have created 3. And the last one I have created 1, right? Total 6 records. Let me see how many records are there. Will you be able to see all the 3 records? But the same file it's been repeated, right? I'm not getting the second and third file here. No, this is not the valid scenario. You should get the third record
Not
as well.
any increment, right? Suma, it's kind of a static.
No
the
need of
same file is picked up again and again, right?
correct, but that is not the case. When you're working on for each loop container, the expectation here is it will automatically pick the next file also. Once after it is done, there is no need of increment. There is no need of configuration like we do in the for loop container.
Usual for loop, okay.
Exactly. If you give the increment, no, that will become as a static, right? Then there is no concept of dynamic in nature. I can go with the for loop container. So the major benefit of for each loop container is I don't know the file count. I generally give the random ones. It automatically pick the files or, by one, like test 1, test 2, something like that. Let's see why it is going wrong here. Now look at this. Go to the variable section. This is your file name. This is your folder name. This is your full path, right? This is your full path. For example, test1.csv. Now, what it should do is, okay, go here, the variable section. Let's not configure this. Configure folder name for a second. And let me truncate the data so that we will get to know whether it is loading all 3 files or only 1 file. These configurations only, guys, throughout SSIS, it's very difficult to remember all the things. SQL queries, at least based on logic, we can remember. This, each and every component where the file will be there, where the configuration will be there is little difficult to remember. This will come when you practice it and based on experience also. Okay, now let's get started with the execution once again, and let me cross check whether configurations are properly configured. Fully qualified only variable mappings. I just change it to folder name to check whether it is picking all the files or not. Now let me execute the container. Okay, what is this? Cannot open the, okay, folder name, CSV, test1.csv, cannot open the data file. Is it because of this wrong configuration? Let me see, variables. Till here it is coming, and then file name. Go to the execution results. Till here it is fine. Why it is again pointing to test1.csv? Go to the properties once again. Expressions, file full path. So it is showing test1.csv only, which is fine. Go here. Collection is also fine. Everything is proper. Is this one test1, test2, test3, Windows C only, right? Here, let me delete this. Add it from the beginning of, what is my file name, right? And then that should be your file name. I remember now. It's not a folder name or it's not a full path, guys. It should be your file name only. Now let's see what is the error again. I'm getting it. C test. Your processing of file is C test only. Again C test and test1.csv. File. Where it is configuring 2 times. First, when I have configured the flat-file connection manager, and within flat-file connection manager, it has to pass the entire folder name, and this is your folder name, right? It should be only the file name here. Right click, not right, double click on it. Collection, go to the variable names. Since it is only the folder slash, it should be your file name. What is your file name? test1.csv only. So it should be the full name here, right? Let me check that, guys, 1 second. Let me delete the variable name for a second. It should be configured. Execute container. Okay, now let's see, guys. Probably I would have configured variable name, customer data, the same file, right? Truncate table. Okay, let me see what I have configured here. This is your file only because it should be your folder. And this anyways, I'm not going to work on it because everything I should pick it from the folder. And coming to the variable, this one we have tried it for folder name because which one select variables to map the collection value. The collection value is file name only. It is for sure because the folder name is already given, and after this it will pick the file name on every increment. First file name test1 will be configured, and next one it will check for the another file name called test2 because it is going on loop basis, right? It should be file name, but for somehow I am getting this double time file name, na? Like C colon C test is just, which is for folder, Again, it is going for folder, and again it is coming for a test1.csv. Somewhere it is configuring two times, isn't it? That is going wrong. The file name, the directory name, or volume label syntax is incorrect. Flat file connection source. Let me think of it. Let me pause recording for a minute. Yes, sorry guys. So let me see the error where we have, where we got the issue basically. Look at this step by step. The same way, consider this is also issue you are also getting in the real time. How to debug it? First, analyze it by using an error message where it is going wrong. So if I looked at the error message, it is clearly showing full path followed by the again file name it is coming. That should not be the case, right? So when I debugged it, what I found here is everything is proper. Once you go into the source connection properties, you have to correct instead of full path, make sure it is a folder name, guys. That is a small mistake from my side. Just correct it here. If you are writing somewhere in the expressions, click on connection string. It should be your folder name. It's my bad. Kindly make a correction in the connection string. Make sure it is not a full path. It is a folder name. That's it, guys. Now, if you look at clearly in for each loop container also, everything I have given properly. This is my directory name, and this is the full files I'm taking. And here also it should be a folder. Do remember, you should not give file path anywhere because the same file it is getting loaded, and you're not making it as a dynamic. That is the only thing to remember, guys. Anywhere you have to configure what folder name only. You should not configure file path unless in the variable section everything is folder name only. That is a key point to remember here. So now let me execute the file. I have truncated the table so that it can load the data freshly. So now let me execute the container. See, the data is loaded. Go back to the SQL server to verify whether the data is no. Okay. To verify the data is properly loaded or not. So now what you can do here is check the data. We have 6 records. First 2 is from the first file. The second 2 is from the second file, and the last one is from the third file. Is it clear now? So let me repeat the steps, whatever I have taken for each loop container. First one is configure the source and destination the way you have done it for the first class. Simple way, bringing up the one file to the destination. That configuration you're all comfortable. Then drag the for each loop container, put the DFT inside your for each loop container, create 3 variables. One is for file name, folder path, and full file path. Make it as a configurable, and finally you double click on the for each loop container and go to the collection, select the enumerator type as a file enumerator, click on expressions, configure the folder name, and go to the variable mappings. Here you have to pass the folder. And before that, you have to go to the source connection, right click, go to the properties, click on expression, here also folder name. That's it, guys. See, we have found the issue and we have rectified it. Similar way, it may take time, maybe in your real time also, but don't get stuck there. Like, just focus on the error message. It will clearly show sometimes. Maybe if you're off-minded or something, you may not get the exact error where it is getting, like me, which I have done. I'm thinking that it is correct, only why it is going wrong. Then when I think that error message, when I looked at the error message, sorry, it is clearly showing full path followed by the file name, which is wrong, right? Like test1.csv / test1.csv, which is not correct. So that's where I found the issue. Now, this is all about for each loop container, right? With this, I can say data flow and control flow tasks and containers all done, which is into the development area. I think I remember there are few more transformations and tasks available. I told you that these are all not important in the real time. Sometimes maybe in your real time, you may get a chance to use it. but I request you to go through the requirement. Sometimes you also get a chance to work on send mail task, which I'll tell you as part of my other task, which is like error handling. You will get to know. Another thing also which I missed it to show you the last class, which is called execute process task. So write down one single line statement in order to execute any kind of like zipping the files and unzipping the files, or open up the notepad, run the batch file. All these kind of scenarios you will be executing in the execute process task. Let me tell you one thing and I'll move on to the next concept in SSIS called error handling. Right now, I don't have 7-zip in my laptop, guys. I request you to do a 7-zip, like copy the, I'll tell you how to do it. You can simply copy the file name, like a folder path, and then give the arguments that also I'll give you. It will help you. Let's say, consider this example. By giving this folder path over there, it will zip the particular file test1 into a 7-zip. I don't have the 7-zip here. If you look at it, send it to, I have normal compressed zip folder only. I don't have a 7-zip. I don't have a other what do you say, software to do a zip, right? And one more thing, as I said, I will share you the configurations here. Somewhere I have noted it down. Yes, look at this. This you are going to pass it in the executable. What is your executable basically? For example, if it is a 7-zip, you have to mention 7zip.exe, something like, each and every application, for example, click on run. And if you wanted to open notepad, you will just click on the notepad, something like this, right? Or if you wanted to run any file, especially the executable file, you might have seen .exe, guys, right? Don't think for any application. Think for your SQL Server setup, or think for your Visual Studio setup. Once you get downloaded into your local folder, you will see some .exe file. Anybody observe that? Any application .exe means it is an executable file. So similar way, you have to pass the executable here, and arguments also you have to pass it, like what is your folder path. As I said, you have to copy the entire folder path, and then finally you have to give the working directory. Working directory is your directory folder name. So arguments is nothing but you have to provide the file name .zip. What argument you have to pass? Is it a zipping or is it unzipping also? You have to mention it here. And working directory will be your folder name, guys. Now I'll simply mention now a notepad.exe, right? And which notepad.exe also I can pass it here. Let's say go to the test folder. Go to the documents. Suma, not here. It should be Suma. Okay, any notepad, never mind. What I'll do here is, not the folder, right? Take some simple text document, SSIS demo, right? Now I'll configure this. Copy this one. It is not test, right? What I have given, SSIS. It is very lengthy. Let me write it. Suma SSIS demo test dot text. Is it a text? No, SSIS demo dot text. Now the simple thing is I'm going to open up the notepad from the execute process task. That's it, guys. Nothing else here. Now let me execute it and see if it is working. See, automatically you open up a new file with the name called SSIS demo. Why? Because instead of giving the folder name, entire folder name, I have given along with the file name, right? So what it will show here is, you have already SSIS demo text file in this folder. You wanted to create a new folder, sorry, new file. If I click on yes, it will automatically create a Notepad. I didn't go manually and open up SSIS demo there. I opened it through SSIS package by using which task, guys? Execute process task. Do remember, when you are working on any kind of a process, like opening up the notepad or opening up the, like zipping the file and unzipping the file. So such kind of operations, which task you will be using? You will be using execute process task. Do remember, this is the one last thing I would like to discuss. With this, I will cover all the development activities. With this, I'll cover all the development activities. Now, I'll move on to the next one called error handling, guys. Error handling. Kindly note down. That is another concept in SSIS apart from data flow and the control flow. Error handling. Put a heading as error handling. Note down one by one topic. I'll explain each and everything. First one is breakpoints. Guys, you're following the running notes, right? Breakpoints. And the second one is checkpoints. Let me note down here also. Error handling. First one, what did I say? Breakpoints, checkpoints. The third one is loggings and the event handlers, right? So these will be your error handling techniques in SSIS. If somebody is asking, interview question, guys, IQ, if someone is asking what are the error handling techniques or steps you have followed in SSIS, you can tell all these things, right? First, I'll cover breakpoints because it's very easy to remember, and then I'll go on to the checkpoints. Okay. Now, moving on to the breakpoints. First, I'll tell you the definition. Guys, in the real time, if you are in a development stage, and you wanted to break your SSIS package flow, meaning, let's say you're running some 10 statements here, 10 flows. In between, if you wanted to break the package execution and understand the variable values, anywhere in between your development phase, then go with the breakpoints. I can tell you one example. Let's say, just now I faced one issue, right? I have executed it from starting to end. It continuously executed and showed me the error, correct now? But in between, I wanted to understand where exactly it is going error. Is it a problem with the variable or is it problem with the, mainly we will check the variables only. If there is any value passing wrongly, then we will come to know what is the issue. Just to break the execution flow in between your development phase, what we will be using? We will be using breakpoints. And in this, we have lot of events. The events are on execute, pre-execute, post-execute, on error, on warning, on another one, information. Okay, these are the different types of events available in the breakpoints. Meaning, if you wanted to break the flow of execution while execution itself, click on execute. Like if you wanted to break it, the flow, entire package flow, before even execution, then go with the pre-execute. After execution, post-execute, on error, on warning, something like that. I think these are same only. Pre-execute, post-execute, comma, on error, on warning, on information, right? So these are the different set of events where you will be breaking the flow of your package and understand which step it is going for error. What is the concept I'm talking about now? Error handling. We are not talking about the development stage, guys. We are talking about after your development, what is the next step? Let's say in between just now, whatever the error we found, the same way you will also get it in your future. So how will you rectify those? So that concepts all will come under breakpoints, right? Now look at this, right click, there is an option called edit breakpoints. How to configure edit breakpoints. And the events I said, right? Like on execute, on error, post execute, you can see always here. Now I wanted to enable my breakpoint. There is an option called enabled, guys. Now there is no option selected. Click on anything. like on execute, pre-execute, on error, something like that. Click on OK. Now, the moment you click on OK, can you see the red color here? Guys, can you see it here?
Yes.
Yes.
That means somebody has stopped or somebody has passed the execution flow, meaning they have configured some breakpoints. Or in other words, let me tell you the technical definition. Breakpoints is nothing but it will pass the flow of execution, guys. It will pass, I mean to say, it will break the flow of execution based on these events. That's it. Based on this events, that's it. Now, after I click on configuration, right? Now, let me start the package here. Let me disable this for a minute. I don't need this. Now, if I start this package execution, now look at this. Can you see the arrow one? Meaning somebody has created a breakpoints like a before execution, guys. What are the events I selected? Anybody remember? 3 events I selected. What is that? Click on edit. Look at this. Can you read it out? Last one. Based on the last one, you can clearly identify. What are the event selection I did it?
Execute.
Event, post event,
First
error.
one, break when the container receives.
On pre-execute.
Pre-execute.
On post execute. On error.
On-
What does that mean? Anybody? Pre-execute meaning it is clearly
Before
showing okay before execution, correct. After execution also I need it, and on error also I need it. So what I'll do, the moment I click on start button, it is nothing but a pre-execution only, no guys. So that is why you are getting a control flow. Now it is breaking here. It is not completing the execution, it is breaking here. So in this phase, if you wanted to analyze something or if you wanted to open up the variables or something like that, you can clearly understand it. Now click on stop debugging. Oh, I'm so sorry. It is my bad. What we have to do is click on start again. Now, one second. Use this view to build and modify the control flow in the package. Sorry. Can you see the continue button? Can you see the continue button? You have to click on. I'm so sorry. The reason is, see, these breakpoints and checkpoints in the real time, we may not use it on a regular basis, guys. Let me correct you this also. What I'm trying to say here is, just for our training purpose, just to get into the job, let me tell you very honestly, these concepts, we may not even touch in the real time. We majorly focus on the data flow, control flow, and then configurations, variables, right? Execute SQL task. You will be using execute SQL task like anything. Yesterday, I spent almost 45 minutes, I don't know, near to 1 hour. So the reason which I spend most of the time is because that is very important. Clear now? So coming back to this concept, just click on continue. See, it has been executed. Why again it is a hold, guys? There is a break over there. Why there is a break over there? What are the event I have selected?
Maybe we have selected after execution also.
Post execution, pre execution, on execution, right? That is the reason. Now, the moment you click on continue, right, all the breakpoints will be done. That means there is one more breakpoint also, like on error, since my package not stopped with any error, it will not go with the on error event at all, right? So it will go with the pre-execute and post-execute. That's it. Okay. So now finally the continue button is disabled. That means okay, you're done with the breakpoint events. Now click on stop debugging. That's it, guys. Click on stop debugging. Just to pass the execution flow in your development area or in your development phase, I will go with the breakpoints. I repeat, why I'm repeating multiple times in the development, you are in the development stage. Once you deploy this package into your production, you cannot configure the breakpoints there. Since we are developers, we are developing this SSIS package. In order to understand flow between one place to another place, we need this breakpoints. We will not use this in your production environment. These two guys, especially these two. Now, moving on to the checkpoint. This is also very, very important. Guys, any questions? Kindly note down interview question, guys. At least one interview question will be based on checkpoints. Note down, very, very important. Definition. Let's say if your package is failed, I don't want to run the package from the beginning, whereas I wanted to run the package from the point of failure. I repeat, if your package is failed, I will give you an example also for clear understanding. You have 4 to 5 DFTs. What is a DFT?
Data flow task.
Very good. You have a 4 to 5 DFTs. In between, something got failed by picking up the table name or by writing some wrong table name, something like that. But first 2 DFTs, kindly observe the scenario. The same thing you're going to explain in the interviews. The same scenario you're going to explain in the interviews. He will not ask you another question after you give this explanation. So that you have to be very strong in that kind of giving the answers to the interviewer, right? Give this example. You have multiple DFTs or configure or multiple execute SQL tasks are configured. The first 2 DFTs are done with the execution. It took some almost 1 hour time to load the data. And after 2 DFTs, there is one execute SQL task. There it got some error and it failed. And now there is a scenario, you have already fixed that issue and you started the execution. Again, it will go for 1 hour and load the data, and again it will come back to execute SQL task. Will that be a good solution? Your 1 hour is gone, right? You cannot sit and again run the package. So in this scenario, in order to come or in order to run the package from the point of failure, meaning where it got failed, from there only you wanted to pick it up. So such scenario can be easily achieved with the help of checkpoints. Checkpoint, right? I repeat the definition once again for you all. You have a set of containers, sorry, you have set of tasks in the control flow where your package is failed in between. In order to execute the package from the point of failure rather than from the beginning of your package, checkpoints is being used. One more tip to remember, tips and tricks. Checkpoints is always configurable in the control flow area, not in the data flow. I repeat, checkpoints are available. To make it very simple, checkpoints are available in the control flow, guys, not in the data flow. That's it. Clear? Checkpoints are always available in the control flow area. Meaning, if you click on data flow, if you click on right click, you cannot see those options here in the data flow area. If you click on control flow and there is an options available, wait to check, I'll tell you clearly. Now look at this. Create one more package here. I will cover this checkpoint and leave it. Tomorrow I'll cover logins and error handlers. And very important thing, precedence constraints. Tomorrow session, class 6. And then followed by deployment. With this, I will close this session tomorrow. I will finish checkpoints today because it's very important. Or what I'll do is, it will take a lot of time, maybe 10 to 15 minutes of time to cover this. I will cover logins today, which is also important, but it's very simple. Within 5 minutes, I can close the session. But tomorrow, since I have much time, I will cover checkpoints, precedence constraints also, it will take some 10 minutes over time, and deployment some 10 to 15 minutes. Tomorrow, maybe we can close the session very quickly only. I don't have much concepts to cover. Now, I'll cover logins today. Let's move on to the logins. Go back to your for each loop container. Now, again, going back to the definition for logins, guys, in order to, so far we were learning on error handling concept only, right? Now, in order to capture the error messages somewhere, I repeat, in order to capture or store the error messages somewhere so that you can read the error message and analyze it for your debugging purpose, then go with the logins. What is a log generally? What is a log basically? A log is nothing but to store some information, correct now? Or to store some error messages properly. So to do this, we will go with the logins. So how to configure is, right click. There is an option called starting itself. There is an option called logins. Before even going to that, let me disable the breakpoints because it is unnecessary for this moment. What I'll do, right click, go to the logins, and one window will be opened up, and that window will ask you to configure something. Let me tell you very neat topic of logins. There are five types here. Kindly note down: SQL Server, text file, XML, Windows event logging, and SQL Server profiler. Out of all these 5 types, I have used maximum SQL Server, text file, and XML. These 3 only, guys. Because I'll tell you the real-time scenario also. Out of all these three things, if you ask me, I have used maximum SQL Server only. Why? Because being a BI developer or being a SQL Server developer, if you capture your error messages in the SQL Server, it is very easy to read the error message because it is stored in the table way. Like it is stored in the table fashion. Like you will have columns, you will have rows, you will have each and every column description properly given. So by storing the error messages in SQL Server, it is very easy to read it and very easy to debug also. So that is why I prefer to choose always SQL Server. So by default, if you click on right click logging, automatically it will be opened up with the SQL Server type. SQL Server type. What you have to do in the next step is click on add, and now you have to select which package you are going to configure for a SQL Server logins. Now I clicked on, can you see here? I clicked on a checkbox here in for each loop container option. Now click on OK. Before even click on OK, you have to configure, guys. What you need to configure here is, go to the configuration. If you have already connection, that is fine. If you don't have it, just click on new connection, select whatever the DB destination you wanted because it is a SQL Server type. Now click on cancel since I have already used a destination here, or let me not use of it. Go to SQL Server training, whatever it is, let it be. Go to the SQL Server training, click on OK. Right now if you execute the package, what it will do, no? Behind this error messages, all these things will be captured. Not only error messages, basically it will store the entire package logins. Basically, what is a start time, what is the end time, what is a package name, what is a container name, each and everything very detailed. It will store in the place of logins. That to which type of a logging I have selected now? What is the type?
SQL Server login.
SQL Server logging. Why I should go with the SQL Server logging? Any idea? Because it is good in readability of table fashion, like rows and columns fashion, because you can write a T-SQL statements. I'll tell you what I meant there. Now, to go with SSIS logging, what you need to do, no? You have to go with the MSDB. Click on MSDB. Select the table name, guys. This is very important. Interview question. I will ask you tomorrow. Very, very important. Okay. It is not captured here, is it? Okay. What is the DB we have taken? SQL Server training. On OK. Yes. What is the DB I have configured there? I have configured SQL Server training DB. Now, what is the date today? Can you see the 16th date here? Yes. Can you see here? So I have run the package and all the things are captured here. Let me also work on, not here, 7:54, but it should capture the current date time also. Okay. Okay, consider this is your login, guys. Generally, once you configure logins, it will sit inside your table name called SSIS log, where you will see lot of events, as I said, on error, post execute, and what is the type of the on progress, who is the user logged in, and along with my name, and what is the sources, what is the source ID. Source ID and execution ID will be GUID. You cannot do nothing with this because you don't remember anything here. I mean, we will not get enough information. Correct now? So what you will get here is you will see these error messages. If there is any error, if there is any failure messages, what is the start time and end time. So these are the major things you will observe in the logins. And in the real time, if your manager is asking to fetch the data where events only related to on progress, what you will do? If you cannot store the data, I mean, if you don't store the data into the SQL server, if you put it in the file way, it is very difficult to go over each and every record and fetch the on progress. The reason why I stored purposely in SQL server is I can write my own queries like this, where clause, correct now? Since you know SQL server commands, it is very easy to write a T-SQL. Either you can update it, or you can fetch the data by using where clause, or you can do order by or a group by. Any other operations you can perform on a SQL server table. Why? I mean, when you get this option, you can select the option called SQL server type login. Right click on logins. Look at this SQL server login. Now, if you go to the text file, guys, click on add. Now, click on the connection where you wanted to configure. I'm going to create a file, browse within this text login. What is the type of the login I'm going to capture? Text login. Now click on OK. Now let me click on everything. Select this. Click on OK. Now run the package. Start it. Package executed got successfully. Is there any error? What is the error that is coming out? That's okay. Because we have configured for the same folder, we have configured for text login, no? So that is the reason. That's okay. So go here. Yes. Can you see here? Text login has been created. When you open up with the notepad, you will see the same columns only. If you clearly observe in my SQL server, what is the ID? What is the event? Sorry, ID has been auto increment, guys, because it is a table level. Auto increment, you know, na identity property. But here there is no ID here. Starts with event, starts with computer, operator, source ID, message. Message is very important. For example, whether it is started, whether it is ended, what type of error. Is it a good readable format, or will you be able to identify neatly in SQL Server? SQL Server is better, right?
Better. Yeah.
Because it is structured in table, and within the table you have a rows and columns fashion. Now you got an idea. In interview, if somebody is asking you to explain the logins, what you can tell, logins is basically to capture the error messages. That too, especially we do have different types of logins. One is SQL Server, text file, XML, Windows event logging, and SQL Server profiler. After you tell this, what you can tell them, even though we have different types, I have used mostly SQL Server only because I can write my own queries to fetch the data from the DB. It is well organized in table, column, rows, and fashion, where I can write a where clause, I can filter the data, I can write a group by based on some category, on an event category especially. And then sometimes after, you cannot end this question, guys. What you can tell them is, because they will have a assumption, oh, this lady's only used SQL Server, she don't know other types. Don't create that kind of like, what you say, knowledge in front of your interviewer. Tell them that you know other things also, but you have not used it. That's it. Saying, I have used text logging also, but for me somehow readability is not good. I have preferred SQL Server always. I also know how to configure XML logging. Comparatively with the text logging, XML logging is pretty good in terms of readability, because if you know, if you guys know before XML, each value will be stored as tab format, like starting tab, ending tab, something like that, or something. I remember only this only, guys. I'm not a pro in XML, but this is also good in readability format. Correct, now? So this is how you have to explain in the interviews also when they ask about logins, right? So this is all about what is that? Which concept we have discussed? Control flow transformations, right?
Logins.
Or loggings comes under which topic?
Error handling.
Error handling.
So far development is done. Now we are good with error handlings, and tomorrow I'll cover few more error handling topics, which is called checkpoints and event handlers. With this, you are good with the development, you are good with error handlers, and finally, you cannot keep your package within, you have to deploy the package where to the server basically, so that customer also can make use of it. So that is your last step. With this, understand the flow from the beginning to till end, how far you have come for SSIS. Clear now, guys? Tomorrow's concept is also very important. Daily I'm telling you, which is important. So please attend, guys. Tomorrow we'll close the SSIS session. If tomorrow time permits, I will start at least 10 minutes overview of Power BI. If not, I'll start from. Will you be able to take session on Saturday, everybody?